Hey there, pipe community. Calendar oil on the pipe patio. As you can see, it's starting to flesh out a little bit. The banana plants are coming on, and cucumbers are starting to trail up the wire column I have around them. And fern's doing well. I haven't went and bought any of the other plants that I talked about doing. May run do that in the morning. I don't know. Just haven't done it. If I don't go ahead and do it pretty soon, I'm not going to have to worry about it, because this is the red stem climbing spinach, and these volunteer plants are going to take over everything. Even got one already start to run up the column here. But was sitting out here and had a taste today for some Prince Albert, so I'm smoking it in my General with my green stem on it, acrylic stem, and just enjoying the afternoon. Let me get a relight real quick. I was thinking today, and what I wanted to talk about a little bit was, I was watching a video the other day about Wisdom Junkie, and he was talking about journaling, which is one of the things he does, and he was talking about, one of the things that you might want to think about is that your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and even your great-great-grandchildren, what a treasure that would be for them to be able to have a journal of yours where you'd wrote down some of the things and what you was doing and what your thoughts were of the day, and kind of what was going on in your life. And it made me think a little bit. I've done genealogy for on and off the last 25 years, and like most people, I've got into these situations where, my thought was, geez, I wish I could talk to him for a minute, or I wish I had a little more information, or I wish I could have found a family Bible. At least they wrote some stuff in there that I'd love to be able to know about. And it made me think about a book I had ran across one time, and the name of the book is They Can Take It With Them. And of course, what it's talking about is when someone you know or love passes on. I mean, and if they haven't wrote down any information, or if they, even as simple as writing on the back of a picture, who the person is in the picture. Maybe you have a picture of your great-grandpa and grandma, and there's a couple other people in the picture with them. If somebody doesn't write that down, then as the generations move on, it's completely lost as to the identity of who those people were. So, it really made an impression on me, and I've decided to go ahead and start doing some journals. Write down some of the things I'm thinking about, and what I'm doing, and I'm selling a camp in Mississippi, and just kind of trading what we're doing as a family. We're going to, instead of going to Mississippi for the camp, now we're going to go over here to a town about 30 miles from us. It's on a river, and I'm buying another rental property this week, and I was real excited because it appraised for about $10,000 more than what I paid for it. So I think it's a great idea. And what really got me to thinking about this is, my family direct. I was only 4 years old when actually I wasn't quite 4, when my grandfather died, my dad's dad. I was about 3 months shy of being 4 years old, and I have a few faint memories of him. One being that we would go down and visit with him, me and my dad, and he'd always pick at me, and I'd tell him I wanted a Coke to drink, and he'd say, "Oh, I ain't got no Cokes." And eventually he'd open up his door to his refrigerator, and he'd have it full of these 6.5-ounce Cokes they used to cell. And I don't know what that was, folks. Got no idea. I hope that shows. Um, so you know, the only other uh, memory I have is when he passed away. I wanted to go to the funeral, and they wouldn't let me go. They made me stay with my maternal grandparents. But his daddy was born in 1864, during the Civil War, and never got to know him. I had heard my dad tell stories about him, but on the census records, I pick him up. He's living in a little town south of Liberty, Mississippi, and he it's called Ducktown, and that's named after the inhabitants or a man that founded it. And my family ended up intermarrying with some ducks, but in 1870s, 15 years old, he's working on the farm there, and he's the first one in my family that I find that breaks away from farming. All the other ones that I can find going back to my sixth great grandfather, they're all farmers. Uh, so at 17 years old, he ends up getting married. And you say, well, maybe that's not that much of a shock. People got married real young back there. But I'm gonna tell you, from what I've learned, you didn't see many of the boys getting married, young men. It was the young daughters would get married 16, 17, 18, and most of the time they were marrying men in their 20s, mid 20s, 26, 25, 26, 27. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And what that was about, that I found out, was, the fathers wanted them to marry a guy that was a little older, maybe had some property already had a house built, and, was farming and making an income to be able to take care of his daughter. But my great-grandfather gets married at 17. He marries a widow woman that's 24 years old that already has two children. And she lives in a town probably 30 miles away from him. I have no idea how he met her, at 17. My only guess is that maybe because later in life I found that he was working for the railroad as a rail car inspector. I said, well, maybe he was working at 17, or he ran away, or maybe he was hitching a ride on a train, or I don't know. I don't have no, And I said, if something was wrote down, if somebody, him or one of his children, or my grandfather, anybody would have wrote down that story, because he ended up staying married to her. He had a daughter and a son. The son died at 15 years old. Nobody knows exactly, or nobody knows at all what happened to him. He did stay in touch with his daughter, and then he gets divorced from her at some point in time. He was born in 1864, so he got married to her in 1881, and I don't know how long he stayed married to her. But when he married my great grandmother, their first child was born in 1893. So, I'd love to know some of this information. I wish somebody would have wrote something down, or it was written down by a family member, or just anybody that you could have got some information about this about. I can guarantee you that that was not probably looked upon kindly. That was probably a little scandalous back in the day. I do know that when he got remarried for the second time, he married in Liberty, where his parents were from. So, it really made me think about what Wisdom Junkie was saying, and how important and how treasured that information would be to your future family, your grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. He married my great-grandmother, and he stayed married to her until he was about 62 years old, and ended up leaving her, and then got married again when he was about a year and a half later about 63 and a half, and stayed with that wife, the third wife, until he was 83 years old. He passed away at 83, you know. And now you would think that a person that had been married in that time period, been married 3 times, would have been maybe gruff or hard to get along with, or or whatever. And but from the information that I got from my dad and my great uncles and my great aunts, and even my dad's first cousins, was that he was a real nice, kind, just what you would think of as a grandfather. And it was my great grandmother that was kind of grumpy and gripey and hard to get along with, and you know, so I just really wish I would have had some of that information. So all of that to say that Wisdom Junkie really made an impression upon me, and I'm going to start journaling. I'm going to start writing down some things, like, this week I bought a new rental property, and found out today that I got the appraisal back, and it was appraised it appraised for $8,000 more than what I paid for it. So it was kind of exciting. My banker was real happy about it. But my daughters are home for the summer for school, and one of them has got a job. The other one's fixing to just thinks she's found a job, and it's just your everyday life and what's going on with you and your children and your family. And I think our future family members down the line, I think it would be invaluable to them. I know it would be to me. A million times I said, man, I wish I could have asked them this question, or I wish this was wrote down somewhere. So that video really had an impression upon me, and is going to change some of the things that I do. One of them is going to be journaling. So till next time, guys, man, get you a pipe, get your favorite tobacco, get you a good comfortable chair somewhere, and light that rascal up and have a good smoke.